Good afternoon. I can confirm that Joint Consultative Committee has now started and that the meeting is current. As you are aware, the public element of today's meeting is being live streamed and those participating in the meeting have given consent to their inclusion. The recording will be available on the City Corporation's YouTube channel following the meeting and it shall be retained for up to 1 civic year. Chair.
Thank you, Town Clerk. So we want to welcome to members, trade union representatives, officers, and those members of the public watching the meeting virtually. Town Clerk.
Thank you. Apologies. No apologies for absence have been received today. Item 1. Item 2, members' declarations under the Code of Conduct in respective items on the agenda. No declarations notified in advance. Seeing none in the room, that moves us on to item number 3, to agree the public minutes and non-public summary of the meeting held on 4th of September 2025.
Are there any comments on accuracy or matters arising?
Thank you. Item number 4, items raised by GMB and Unite. We have at item 4A, pay award 2025-26, which is an item requested by GMB colleagues. Not sure if you might want to.
Yes, so we'll hand over to GMB colleagues to talk to this item.
Well, I think what we wanted to raise was about the pay for executives within the Corporation of London, and how it seemed like unfair. I know that's something that feedback that we've been getting from our colleagues and members. It just seems like a bit of a disparity there. So that I think that was one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't settle for the earlier pay awards, the 2.7 and 2.9. I think for us as well, the other issue is can we all kind of like reflect upon how long it's taken this year to get to where we are. I know that there is an improvement on last year, but I think it was in January that the pay award was implemented. This year we find it being implemented in December. So again, I mean, I think from GMB's point of view, we're keen to work with the city for further improvements to get going as soon as really on the implementation of the pay awards. I believe the date that people want it to be done, or the agreed date, is July. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But sorry, Diane, I don't know if you want to.
Thanks, Ben. I mean, just to add to that, with the NJC negotiations, I mean, they start quite early, on and 6 months before, and they're implemented in April. But obviously we got a different timeline. Yeah, so ours is July, but they do have a good 6 months lead in and they seem to hit that target. So we should be able to do it, we started in January and, we now just settling and, staff getting it in their pay backdated in December. And we do understand sometimes that has impact on particularly those who have student loans and they get a little bit of a lump sum in their pay, backdated pay, and that can knock them into paying a little bit more tax on their loan. So there are kind of those knock-on effects for individuals. So it's just to give that plea, can we start negotiations ASAP? Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have one person online, Danny. I think you've got your hand up.
Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. So apologies on behalf of Unite. Unfortunately, our regional officer, Nick West, was unexpectedly taken ill, so he'll be off for a considerable time. So I kind of took over for him only last week, so I'm sort of quickly catching up to speed with the City of London now. Although I have a little bit of understanding, as a lay member working in Greenwich, I was chair of the GLPC for a little while. So I have met your colleagues from the city before. On the pay, Unite did go to ACAS to have talks, and obviously we were disappointed that you didn't move from the 3.2%. We outlined various issues around the RPI being 4.5%, and other factors that we felt that with the City of London's assets. My colleague from GMB raised the issue of executive pay. I mean, I'd more like to reflect on the pay given to consultants, which was an extraordinary amount we found under a freedom of information request. So I think it was in your remit to give a decent pay rise, and whatever our politics and whatever our stance is, I'm sure we're all disappointed that in the budget, personal allowance has been frozen again up until 2031, and that fiscal drag has an effect on the majority of your employees and a majority of our members, and that obviously they'll be paying more tax, and that will have a detrimental effect on their wages. The point was made very correctly about students' loan. I think the other sad indictment is that you'll have a number of your employees on wages that qualify them for universal benefit. So I'd ask you to look at it closely when you give the back pay. If you could work with your employees, if necessary, to stagger the amount or work with them so that people are not indirectly affected. I'm going to have to make another apology because it's my first week. Unfortunately, I didn't diarise this, and I've got another meeting, which is unfortunately a disciplinary meeting that had been cancelled numerous times, so I won't be able to stay in the whole of the meeting. But I look forward to catching up. Is it Mr. Kennedy who deals with HR matters in relation to trade unions? Yeah, unfortunately, I was left it may have been the email, is it Alison Littlewood, who's no longer there, so I was obviously getting rejections there. And anyway, I'm sure all of you can give me some sympathy, being in the job for a week, and I do apologise for not being there in person. If I'm still around, is it in February the next one? I'll make certain I'm there. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Danny. And I see we've got Layla, you've got your hand up as well.
Yes, thank you, and apologies for joining online. I hope you can hear me okay. I did ask for this to be on the agenda as well because, as you know, our branch Unite decided to reject the 3.2 offer. While I was disappointed when we went to ACAS that there was no member representation. Members are the decision makers. They are the ones tasked with negotiating pay, and there was no representation in the ACAS negotiations from members. So that was very disappointing for us. However, we're still committed to the process, and we went through 4 rounds of negotiations. Every single offer we put forward was rejected, and it came to light at the end very clearly that it was because officers had been delegated authority to engage through the ACAS process with us, but with a very clear instruction to stay within the existing envelope and therefore not to budge 1 iota. So that was disappointing. I also felt, and this is what I mentioned in the ACAS negotiations, that there has been, just like GMB colleagues mentioned, a lot of wasted time, as in our opinion, the real negotiation started when the city finally understood that we had to include the London waiting in the negotiations. All the time before that was, in our view, unnecessarily wasted. The points with regards to B and C grades, which was one of the offers that once we ran out of offers to be made, our last suggestion was to at least consider an increase for people on grades B and C. And that's because on average, people on grades B and C have at least over half of their income swallowed by housing costs. And that's not a way to live these days. That was also rejected. Things that came through the conversations with officers was that it's being difficult to recruit. Well, the point I made then, and I would like to make again today, is if you want to be attractive and be able to recruit, you need to have competitive pay, and moreover these days competitive with the private sector, because working for local government is not as a safe thing as it used to be, and we have to be competitive. We want to retain people, but for some reason, it seems that at the city, the competitivity of pay seems to be a matter only for senior leadership. Now, I understand with Ambition 25, there will be an opportunity, obviously, to look at that more closely. With regards to the consultants, in terms of what the city pays in its budget, it's twice the amount than it pays for its staff. And when we try to make the point that there may be some wastage there, we were given reassurances that no, there isn't. We still have the view that there are opportunities to highlight that you are probably across the different portfolios that you manage, similarities in the specialist skills that the city needs, and you're paying that same skill over 3 or 4 different portfolio when you could have people trained in-house, develop them, and not spend as much on consultants. And consultants pay, and how much we pay on consultants, I think, does need to be looked at. And what we did realise is that with just a 5% reduction in the consultants' amount paid to consultants, you could have afforded a better increase of 3.5%. With 10% reduction in consultant cost, you could have afforded a 4% increase to all staff. And the thing is, consultants, they do charge you, the city, with their RPI and CPI plus 1%, whereas staff, for years, are not getting pay rewarded in line with inflation. And there's a national crisis, and we know that with regards to the economy, where we've had wage stagnation for over 20 years now. We're not better off than we were 20 years ago, and that is a fact. That's economists saying, not me. And if we want to be continuing to attract people and retain staff, we need to be competitive, and we need to have pay following inflation a bit better. And then the last point we heard was this risk of a potential Section 114. And then when we drilled into the detail of that, it turns out that it was mostly down to the HRA. But then we were told that it's because of national pressures with legislative changes. Again, a lot of local authorities up and down the country are facing the same. And we're a bit at a loss as to why it is so critical with regards to the HRA at the city. We were then told that it was because rents have been capped, but that's actually not the case. I think there's been rent increases. So there seems to be, conflict of information with regards to the HRA, but we understand that it is a pressured, budget, but not enough to use it as a reason for rejecting even an increase of 0.3%, which was our bottom line, increasing to 3.5%. So I'll leave it there, and I would like to join my colleagues at GMB to say that, the next round, we need to be a bit clearer from the beginning in terms of expectations of the process. Maybe a greater commitment from members. And the last point I would like to make is about, this is the first time I've been at the city since 2011. It's only in the last couple of years that I'm hearing terms like value for money duties and making sure that, we avoid the Section 114 and the challenges that the public sector and local government sector are having. And my plea to members would be to try and use their political leadership and agency to advocate for better support and greater support of public sector services, because we hear a lot of that when it comes to the Square Mile as the capital for financial services, but what we don't hear as much support when it comes to the city's role as a local authority, and it'll be good to see more members coming out and using that agency in that way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Layla. So I'm going to hand over to officers if they would like to respond to any of the points raised by our colleagues from GMB and also from Unite. Tom.
I'm happy to speak initially to the timeframes because I think that was one of the last things Layla mentioned, and it is definitely something that members have instructed officers to proceed with discussions as soon as possible at the completion of the 2025-26 pay negotiations. We have started work on our end so that we can begin those discussions. Like Diane said, it does take quite a considerable amount of time. The earlier we can start that, the earlier we can finish it ideally. So it is our commitment, and it has been an instruction from members to officers to begin that process as soon as possible, and we are starting that work on our end. And in terms of timeframes and frameworks for negotiation, we are, or we would like to discuss and consider setting some parameters and timelines around that negotiation, and that is something that ACAS can help with in setting those boundaries, those frameworks for negotiation, to ensure that we are working on the same page for that. But it is a commitment that's been made by members and officers to begin those discussions as early as possible. I'll go to Sonia now, Chair, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll do my best to respond to all these points. I'll take the first one, which has been raised around this executive pay. There was, as explained to Unite when we had the meeting with ACAS, there was an error in the draft accounts that was actually published when this information was sent out. That error has been corrected and has been republished in the September, I think it was on the 27th or 30th of September, in the final accounts. And just to give you a bit of an update, there have been several chief officers that have had additional duties included because other roles have been have gone from the corporation, and therefore they have received a backdated payment from the works that they provided or the support they provided to the corporation in relation to 23-24, which is then shown in 24-25 accounts, which is why it looks like there's a massive increase, but it's not. There's also a breakdown of that, and it also explains what that looks like. So hopefully that will give you the information, but happy to go into more detail if you need to at a separate meeting. In relation to consultants, yes, absolutely. I will come back on this again because the Chairman of Finance is taking the value for money very seriously in relation to how we spend our finances, and consultants as a trend is coming down. Obviously, there was, if I go back pre-Tom, there was a there was a pause in recruitment, so officers could not recruit into roles, and therefore consultants were brought in to actually deliver various services. That is showing a trend that is coming down. I have to say there are a number of specialist roles, predominantly in the consultant areas. We wouldn't normally have those roles built into the corporation's establishment, and the reason for that is, if I give you some examples, we've got major projects programs which we never had 10 years ago, but we have them now, and it's over a period of time. So you would end up recruiting these individuals and then making redundancies after the program has been ended, which is one of the reasons why consultants end up being a bit more of a value for money option. But once again, like I say, the consultants have been requested to be reviewed again by Finance Committee, and we will do that review on a regular basis to ensure that we are demonstrating value for money and we are bringing the cost down as much as we can. The point raised around developing our own, you're absolutely right, Layla. But this all takes time and it cannot be done overnight. And there are things that obviously we are moving as a corporation quite rapidly in the space of major programs, capital programs and the rest of it. But actually, it's really difficult to sort of then try and develop those internally. And sometimes you do have to go external. So once again, that review will be taken by the Efficiency Performance Working Party and will be presented back to the Finance Committee and the results on that. On HRA, I have to say there's been a significant amount of work that's been done in relation to the rent capped. That was referenced. It was done. The rents were capped for a number of years before then government has allowed us to increase it by CPI plus 1%. So there's been some restrictions around that, which is why we have been in that position. And furthermore, the other areas that I would say is that there's been quite a number of legislation that has caused a significant increase on the repairs and maintenance within that. We've gone from a £1.3 million deficit and brought it down to 500,000, and a huge amount has been done in relation to looking at how do we capitalise things rather than having it on revenue, and they are revenue costs. So adding more pressure to the HRA would put them into a section 114 because they need to be balanced. And that is, I guess, one of the areas that is very sensitive at this point in time. Finance Committee is obviously going to be receiving some further information around that. I think that was everything. I don't think I've missed anything. If you need me to clarify anything, please let me know.
Okay, Chief People Officer, want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. So, Norman, honestly, point of clarification, we just kind of add into the narrative. And I think particularly this is a part of the journey around HR transformation and maturing the organisation as well, to actually make sure, I was thinking about around consultants, we're using the right resources at the right time in the right place, and identifying where there's a training need going forward to ensure we've got those skills and getting them in place quickly. And that's part of Ambition 25 and the career planning and the career maps, but also part of HR operating in a really mature environment where we're actually looking ahead and seeing what do we need next year and starting to train people in advance of it and getting ahead of the game. And so we don't need to as consultants. But I do completely agree with the point that if a program is going to be running for us, a lot of it is time dependent. You don't want to bring a consultant in for a substantial amount of time, but at the same time, you don't want to bring a permanent employee for a short amount of time. So it's just a matter of using the right resource at the right time.
Thank you. Any further questions for on the back of that, GMB or Unite? Are you comfortable? Okay. All right, then Town Clerk, over to you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, excuse me, item 4B, which is the people on HR updates. GMB have requested an update to the committee from HR on its progress since the Chief People Officer.
I'll just give a little, do you want me to just give a little bit background around?
Yeah.
Thanks. So Ben Campbell-White, GMB Trade Union Branch Secretary. Just want to give a little bit of background around this agenda item. It was in June 2025 that we presented to this committee a risk assessment for HR and highlighted some of the hazards that we felt were inherent, I guess, within the organisation and could actually potentially harm employees, the HR team itself, the union, the organisation, and it was around the hazard of HR being a broken or dysfunctional HR department, which was under-resourced, poor, and offering poor and inconsistent advice and support, was with many temporary and interim staff. We didn't have a good understanding of City of London policies, procedures. We found that timelines were not being followed, grievances, disciplinaries and appeals were not responded to in a timely way, and in general, as I said, it was widely recognised that it was quite dysfunctional. So we used the general risk assessment form as a way of sort of introducing this at the committee. It has been responded to, but like as is the case with all good general risk assessment forms, there was on it a date for the next review, which was due in December 2025. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to get feedback from our colleagues in HR about the progress or lack of progress or whatever, what's been going on. Thank you.
Okay, over to the Interim Chief People Officer.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you very much for raising it today. I think it's really important we do keep on talking about it. I will apologise, my voice is a little bit all over the place today, so we'll go through and I'll take any questions at the end as well, but I'm hoping we kind of put something together that kind of hopefully answer some of your concerns, but I will also be hand on heart right now with this as a journey, as we all appreciate. So if I click on mine, it's not going to work. You've got the clicker. Sorry, next slide, please. So I think the critical thing is kind of seeing where we're coming from. And I think we all know this story anyway, but I think it's kind of important to reiterate it as well. So obviously I arrived into the organisation about 6.5 months ago. And the first kind of the remit was to create some stability across the team, bring in permanent resource instead of the temporary resource that we were kind of carrying within the function. So there's a tremendous amount of recruitment. And I think I talked before about we had a recruitment fair on week 5 where we had 600 people register, 450 people come along, which resulted in over 20 applications per role within the function. Obviously, the lag time there is it would normally take 2 to 3, 4 months to get these people in, depending on notice periods. But we are now we've got about 4 vacancies left in the team. In fact, 2 new business partners actually arrived on Monday as well. And kind of tackling one of your concerns earlier on, we've also added an additional 4 people into the employee relations team as well for the casework side, because I'm absolutely with you on that. The timeliness of that, the responsing and getting the grievances resolved properly and fairly is really critical. So we've made sure we bolstered that team as well as part of the recruitment drive. I think the other thing was really shifting the dial on delivery, exactly as been kind of raised, making sure we're responding in a timely manner, making sure those responses are consistent and you're getting consistent advice across the organisation as well. There are a number of programs going on. So as we all know, we have Program Sapphire, so the SAP launch of their new HR tool, which will be a fundamental shift for the way we do HR, but that is still a technology drop into the organisation we need to do, which is quite resource intensive. We also have Ambition 25 while we're delivering BAU and trying to transform the function. So I cannot get away from the capacity and the challenge we have within the function at the moment. That's the critical thing of bringing new people in. We have a number of different stakeholders, and I think there's been a lot of work done recently to kind of understand the requirements of all of those different stakeholders, and I've got a slide on that later on. One of the real challenges, and I will never hide away from this, when the number of people we're bringing into the department at the moment creates its own cultural challenges as well. We have people that have been here for a very long time. We have people that have just joined the organisation. We have an interim CPO. We have 2 new people directors that have joined. And actually, a lot of the internal work in HR at the moment is building that culture to develop us as a team, develop us as a unit that are all pulling in the same direction, being purpose-driven and moving forward. But I don't think we can ever underestimate the challenge of that, given the amount of change within the function while trying to deliver BAU and the programs at the same time. We have been doing a lot of work on that internally, which won't be visible to everybody else, but internally within the department to try and ensure that we continue to operate on a smooth journey going forward. At the same time, of course, I'm trying to move things towards being world class. So there is a big element actually on the team about how do we innovate, how do we create new ideas, how do we do new things, even to the extent upstairs on my floor now we have a room kind of dedicated where people can actually go in and collaborate and use the walls to kind of generate new ideas and innovate in their areas about where they can see things going. But so I won't linger too much on this one, but I've discussed this one before. So first and foremost, when I kind of came into the team, it was about setting one team, one purpose, everybody pulling in the same direction and putting a behavioural framework in place. One of my biggest frustrations of any HR team is not being accountable for things when they go wrong, not responding to emails. And actually, we've been doing a lot of work with a team that, even if you don't know the answer, respond, just acknowledge, go back, put somebody in touch with somebody that does know the answer, but really take accountability and own your own space, which has been really important. Being proactive, going out. So I think I've done around 9 to 11 visits, I think, across the organisation so far to go and talk to people about HR transformation, the sort of activity we're doing in HR. That's even included a night visit out to the Heathrow Animal Reception Centre to see their night shift staff, and I sat with them for 2 or 3 hours a few weeks back to really understand what the environment's like when HR is shut effectively, so outside of the 9 to 5 hours and the challenges that they face. So we've been doing a lot of work. Now that we have the business partners on board, we have a rota where they will go into the different areas to sit for a day and actually hold HR surgeries. I'm a huge advocate of human resources being human, and you've probably heard me say that a number of times, but this is not a function that we should be sitting, waiting and reacting. We should be proactively out there resolving things. Probably more for an internal one within HR is, courageous. So actually, we do need to challenge how we are doing things and continue to improve. We also have to have sometimes difficult conversations to hold the line as finance would in many other functions. So actually be able to challenge back and be courageous in your decision making, and then trusting each other. That's a really critical part of HR. So we actually collaborate across the function really well. So forming of the team. So we did a pulse survey. This was about 2 months ago. And this is genuinely me checking where we're going as a department. Are they actually understanding the model? Are we going in the right direction? Do the team believe in what we're doing? This is only a local pulse survey just within the HR department. So I suggest not statistically accurate, especially given the next number of people that have come into the organisation, but the people we had in the team at the time, a couple of months back. The real positive of this for me was 89% of the confidence in the direction of actually we're going. They understand the model we're putting in place. They understand the journey and my expectations of a HR function, which was really, really positive. Large agreement on the new structure, which was agreed by the Corporate Services Committee last November to be able to move the organisation forward. And then a 98%, which was actually one detractor in the department, on the analysis around being supported by the leadership and the leadership of the organisation going forward into the kind of the new world. I will continue to run those pulse surveys every 3 months to ensure the department is feeling like it's successfully going in the right direction and we keep putting the right level of support in place. One of the challenges, and it will be a continuing challenge that we're going to be working on going forward, is that the relationship between the centre and the institutions, how we all work collaboratively together, what the role of the centre is, and we've been doing a lot of modelling around making sure that our offering is received well by the institutions, what they want to take, what they don't want to take, what they have to take as corporation employees, and we'll be doing a lot of that work. That will be an ongoing piece as we build up the profession across the corporation rather than just the department. One of the points you made was kind of around inconsistent advice, and I'd also align to that kind of upskilling of the organisation, my own organisation, and making sure we've got people that are capable to be able to give the right answers. We have had a series of lunch and learns within the organisation as well. In fact, we did one on probation for the hiring managers before we started the big recruitment drive. We've had them on collaboration, change. I think there was one on Ambition 25 a couple of weeks back. So there's been an ongoing engagement and a learning journey across the organisation. And today we actually have some members of my team sat just kind of observing this. Upskilling and that educational part of the department is critical for me. We've had guest speakers coming in, so we actually had Tim Hales come to our last all staff day. We've had customers come and speak at our all staff day so they can understand what we are trying to provide the organisation and the environment we operate in, because I think that's critical to HR actually delivering its service. And the town clerk came along and spoke at my last event as well. And we're continuing to do network events and upskilling events across the department on a kind of fortnightly basis on the floor. Everybody's coming in. And in fact, we've got that many people on the floor now. Actually, we're kind of starting to spill out onto other floors, which is fantastic. We've got a real contingent that are kind of coming in every day and really working together. And there's a really good buzz. And that's one of the pieces of feedback I get from quite a lot of business. On an engagement perspective, I try to send an email every Friday out to my entire department, talk to them about what's happened that week, what I've been going to as part of their journey and understanding of the organisation, but the role of the CPO for those people that aspire to be that's very well received. I say I try because it depends on my day really on a Friday as to how much time I get to do that. And we've also done a number of video series which we're launching around the people in the organisation in HR about who we are, and actually starting to break down some of the personal stuff as well and putting that on SharePoint so everybody can get to know each other, particularly with so many new joiners. So I've been interviewed quite a few times, which are going out to the organisation as well so people can understand. We now have the 2 people directors on board. They've been in both in since the beginning of September. So we've got the stability across the 2 different areas and some leadership so I can actually empower and delegate some of my activities. And just the final one on that slide was the Wall of Wow, which was actually an idea of my own team, which is upstairs in the court board. And whenever there's any small wins, we're putting them up on the board to actually celebrate and bring the morale of HR up. Because it's very rare that we kind of recognise the good stuff that we're doing ourselves, and it's very rare that anybody else recognises the stuff we do sometimes. So actually, that's a real way of kind of bringing the engagement and the buzz on the team. And there's lots of things that go up on that board, and you're more than welcome to go up and see it at any point in time. It's a really good initiative by the team themselves. So I think I've kind of covered a few of these off. The one on there is the recognition opportunities I'll call out. we need to continue to be better. I think particularly the world that HR is coming from on recognising where we are successful and where we're doing good things. The Wall of Wow is part of that, but we are doing an ongoing kind of recognition. And even around Christmas, we're doing activities trying to recognise the successes of the different teams. For 57% is not good enough at the moment. We need to continue to improve that. And that's one of the learnings we took from the survey. Hard stats for those people that are interested. So I arrived in May. And given what I talked about with the recruitment journey and bringing everybody on board, the number of programs we've been doing and the activity that's actually being driven by our stakeholders as well within the department, these are some stats. And there's a lot of detail further on the pack, which I'll circulate around as well, rather than kind of go into huge amounts of detail on it. But some of the things to kind of call out on this, which would be of interest. So, 329 roles recruited. I think 246 different participants going for our line manager training is a really good result as well. And this is why we've been growing the team. The closure of employee relations cases, which you brought on, and that will only accelerate now we've got more people onto that team as well. Although I will say closing them is one thing, the curator thing is doing right. It's not actually about there is an element of pace there, but actually we need to make sure that people are supported, complainant, respondent, person hearing the case, and we're looking at the wellbeing initiatives we're doing around that as well. But as you can see, a huge number, a huge amount of activity taking place across the function. On recruitment, saving of 10.6 days average time from advert closing to conditional offer has dropped, and that's a really successful drop from the recruitment team, which shows how we're doing things differently in recruitment. I've mentioned the site visits, and of course, one of the things that's kind of been lost in this is the fantastic work that Chris did around the benefits platform and colour, which we've launched out to the organisation. So a new platform to be able to supply benefits out, and then the growing element of that around recognition, which will be coming as well. So lots of activity in that space. Just moving quickly on, conscious of time. A lot of work on the employee journey. In fact, we are having workshops downstairs on the employee journey. So where is every contact point that somebody will come in touch with the HR journey across the organisation? Where are the pain points and where can we improve this? And we're looking at this with each of the individual teams and across the directorate to continue to improve the employee life cycle and see where things can get better and better. It's not about doing transformation and stopping. This is about continuing the journey and constantly reviewing it. We have a large customer base in this organisation within HR, so actually mapping that out, who needs what from us, and making sure we're being able to react and play in time, making sure that committee papers, for example, are done nice and in advance and circulated. And it's one of the things we're working on now. We're identifying the volume of work and the different stakeholders we've got. Then how can we use technology within the organisation? On the previous slide, you would have seen the chatbot was taking care of, is now responding to about 649 queries, 81%. We're getting a thumbs up response, so we're getting good feedback on the chatbot at the moment. Continues to be improved as the policy work that Tom is doing continues to improve as a source material for it. As I've been out on my roadshows, more and more people are kind of getting used to the chatbot idea and being able to get their queries answered through there. I've mentioned previously that 20% of the queries coming through to the help desk are how much annual leave do I have? Things like the chatbot and the introduction of SAP are going to reduce that workload massively. It's a workload that I wouldn't even normally see on a help desk team. So it's not even efficiency at this point in time. It's just getting us back to be able to do the job we're meant to be able to do. And SAP will hugely be an enabler in that. I've mentioned the lunch and learns. We are looking at how we can improve our e-learning. I'm sure there are fans of e-learning somewhere, but actually how do we make it more engaging? How do we continue to drive it out to the organisation and use ways that can engage with it? And we've got some digital experts which we brought into the organisation development team that are looking at things like augmented reality, virtual reality, modelling within 3D models within e-learning to actually make it much more interactive and collaborative. All of that is fantastic. We've got to get the basics right. And I'll keep coming back to getting the basics right. So we are doing this huge focus on getting the basics right, but that doesn't mean we're standing still and not trying to stretch the agenda at the same time, despite everything else that we're doing at the same time. We've got to keep moving the dial. We are introducing in-case, so our case management system for employee relations. I think that will be a fantastic, well, two things on that. Getting everything in the same place and being able to report to them and manage them effectively, A. B, using the data we're seeing within that to actually inform the business partners on insights and where they can go out and do activity based on the trends we're seeing within the casework and across HR. We need to get much better at pulling all of the data we've got together into one place and using it to drive insights across the organisation and have strategic business partners that are solving problems before they become issues. And that is part of the ongoing journey. We have a business analyst in our organisation at the moment, mapping the service catalogue to every single service that we have and every single process. So who does what within that process, which are all going to be published out online, so managers and individuals can see who does what at every single step, all with the drive to being transparent, but also clear for the whole organisation about who does what and educating the organisation as we go through that. And a fortnight ago, we managed to get a HR project manager on board who is now managing our HR transformation. This has been done kind of through will and drive and collaboration and effort up until this point in time. We have now pulled together a project plan, so we'll be able to be much more transparent about the ordering of these different activities as we move forward and do it in a much more constructive way, which will be fantastic. And then final slide. So priorities for the next 6 months, keep building the basics. There is no point in me talking about augmented reality, insights, VR, whatever it is, if people's contracts are wrong or things are taking ages to do casework. We've got to continue to get the foundation correct and do things really well every single time, continue to train the team and continue pulling in the same direction. Not just launching SAP, embedding SAP, change of ways of working within my department and across the organisation and the cultural journey that means, training managers and individuals. That's a real priority for the next 6 months. Obviously, we know about Ambition 25, and we've got to land that in the organisation and continue to do the work around the back end of that. A huge part in HR is making sure we've got the provisions in place to actually support people on that journey. I can talk about career paths, talent management, succession planning. If we don't have the training in place and development in place, they're just words. So actually we are on a journey in HR to make sure we've got all these mechanisms in place to be able to support on the back end of Ambition 25 as well. Mapping our service offer across HR and the offer to the institutions will be an ongoing piece of work as part of the profession. And then fundamental to me is building our data and reporting infrastructure. We have a low rate of reporting onto the system in the organisation at the moment. SAP's a really good opportunity to try and drive that message and encourage people to put their data onto the system. Fundamentally, from my perspective in HR, the more data I have, the better insights I get, the better analysis I can do and the better solutions I can put in place. So we will be doing a big campaign, particularly around the launch of SAP, to get more information into that system. Obviously, it is voluntary that people do it. I will pause there on my narrative. There are a number of more slides here which we'll share around outside that go into a lot more detail about the sort of things we've been doing HR. So across each of the different teams, we're tracking this on a month-to-month basis as part of our Celebrate Successes as well. So we have a huge amount of data and information about all of the activity that's taken place over the last 6 months. We're going to continue to track that on a month-to-month basis. But what I'll do is I'll circulate that outside because there's going to be a lot of information to read through if I go into that. So I think I will just pause there for questions, I think.
Any questions?
Well, I suppose Diane, GMB Union, I suppose it's more of an observation, Cliff. So thank you so much for that comprehensive, detailed reflection and review of your journey since you joined 6 months ago. And, you know, there's a hell of a lot there to take in. You've been busy. And so I think, you know, if we can continue on this journey, you know, in another 6 months, we'd also appreciate that. And the collaboration with the trade unions, and thank you for Tom Kennedy in that as well. That structure is working, I think. And you know, it does feel it's moving forward, which is what we were looking for. So we have got on the risk assessment that it's high. Maybe we can go away and have a reflection on that. Maybe it's going down a notch. But maybe Ben wants to come in there. Thanks.
Thank you. Layla, any questions from your side?
Not so much question, just to commend the work that has been done. I agree with Diane. This is a comprehensive update, and there's clearly been a lot of progress in a structured way. And although it seems like fast progress, it feels like it's fast, but done well and embedded, and it feels like it's going to really stabilize things for the medium term and long term. So it's quite a reassuring update, I think.
Thank you. Okay, 10 o'clock.
Thank you. That moves on to item number 4C, which is results and recommendations of GMB AI in the Workplace member survey.
Thank you, everyone. So chair, members, officers, Ben Campbell White, branch secretary of the GMB City of London branch. I'll just make a start. We've noticed a lot of publicity about AI and its introduction within the City of London Corporation. So we wondered what GMB members in, many of our diverse workplaces, such as Environment, Chamberlain, Town Clerks, Tower Bridge, Barbican Centre, Community and Children's Services, Innovation and Growth, City of London Police, City of London Schools, Guildhall School of Music and Drama, markets and city surveyors thought about AI. So we surveyed them online, and as the results were quite interesting, we thought we would share them with you. So clearly, AI has arrived and is already being used throughout the City Corporation. It's here, but I think mounting concerns have been expressed by members, which we captured, and I'm going to give you some analysis of that, which was aided by AI, and they were around the unknown and uncontrolled nature of AI. So many respondents expressed uncertainty about how AI works, how decisions are made, and where data goes. There was widespread concern about the lack of transparency, trust and control over dialogue or outputs generated by AI. Can I have the next slide, please? And there was a feeling of a lack of consultation and training. So tools are being introduced with little or no input from staff. Can I have the next slide, please? So there's a strong view that AI is being adopted too quickly without adequate training, understanding or policy frameworks. So staff report inconsistent rollouts, confusion about appropriate use and lack of guidance or clear strategy. So I think this slide is quite revealing in that maybe roughly 10% of our members say that they've received any training regarding AI. Can I have the next slide, please? And there was a recurring theme of or fear of job loss, de-skilling and devaluation of professional expertise. Can I have the next slide, please? So there you have it. You've got 54% of our members think AI or automation could lead to job reductions in their area. So staff are concerned that management may assume AI can replace human judgment, leading to redundancies or reduced development of core skills like critical thinking and writing. That's something that was fed back to us. Can I have the next slide, please? So this was about accountability, where 88% do not feel that there is clear accountability. Comments noted fears of AI being misused, either by the organisation itself or third parties, including manipulation of outputs and lack of clear accountability for errors or misuse. And respondents highlighted the need for robust governance, transparency and ethical oversight. Have the next slide, please. Thank you. Data and privacy. Staff are worried about where their information goes. Many respondents expressed uncertainty about how AI works, how decisions are made and where data goes. There is widespread concern about the lack of transparency, trust and control over dialogue or outputs generated by AI systems. Respondents repeatedly raised concerns about data protection, GDPR breaches and misuse of sensitive information. The potential for data leakage, unauthorized access and reputational damage is high if proper safeguards are not enforced. And can I have I think it's the last slide. Bias and inaccuracy. 85% do not trust that AI systems used at work will make fair and unbiased decisions. So as we all know, AI can produce false or misleading results, and many cited inaccurate or misleading information. AI hallucinations and bias were seen as major risks, particularly if decisions were made that affect individuals or required nuanced qualitative judgment. So there's a feeling that there is a need for human verification and quality assurance processes. Members also reported that there were ethical and environmental issues. So our members questioned the impact on values and sustainability. Some highlighted broader implications such as environmental impact, loss of creativity and ethical issues. Concerns were also raised about the sustainability of large-scale AI use and its conflict with net zero goals. And then finally, members raised over-reliance and reduction in human oversight. So multiple responses warned of over-reliance on AI outputs without proper review. These included risks to safety, decision-making, and the quality of public-facing materials if human checks are bypassed. Now, last month, through our policy and industrial relations contact in HR, we have requested to see impact assessments, that's DPIAs, data protection impact assessments, as well as any algorithmic impact assessments and equalities data impact assessments. To date, we have not received any by way of return. And this raises serious concerns about the appetite for risk in the organisation's approach to rolling out AI solutions. We know what happened at the recent 2P of staff from within city surveyors to an external contractor, where an equality impact assessment was not conducted, and it caused a lot of grief. There was an investigation, and one of the recommendations from that investigation was into how possibly a retrospective equality impact assessment could be done. But I think from where we're sitting, retrospective impact assessments are difficult, right? They're problematic. And we wonder, is this where we're sitting with regard to AI implementation now? In other words, is the city just doing it and then it's going to assess the risks after the fact? So that's our question. I think what the GMB is calling for is full consultation before AI deployment, job protection guarantees and no de-skilling, proper training and guidance for all users, and transparency and human oversight over all AI inputs. And just to be very clear, we support responsible innovation, but we will oppose AI that threatens job security, fairness, or ethical standards. And we would welcome your thoughts on the subject, and that extends to members too.
Thank you very much, Ben. So I'm going to hand over to Sonia. I think you would like to come back on some of those points that were raised.
Yes, thank you. I have been in touch with our IT director, and he will provide a full response in relation to the points that you've just raised. But I just wanted to sort of just come on a few points that I know I can respond on at this point in time. In relation to the AI policy, there is an AI policy which I'm happy to again circulate as a link to yourselves, and I think it then comes on to, I guess, the training needs, and it is all of our responsibilities to ensure we have the training that's provided. There's a huge amount of training out there that perhaps we need to just make it a little bit more visible to colleagues so that they have a bit more awareness as to where they can go in relation to training. But again, you know, if colleagues are unsure, our IT director is not, you know, he's very personable, you know, approachable, and I'm sure him and his team will be able to provide you in the right direction in relation to that. But also, there is nothing stopping from colleagues speaking to their managers about and raising these concerns, and actually then it gets escalated and gets to the right people to sort of provide the right information. With regards to AI, it's not replacing roles, it's essentially moving roles into creative spaces. So AI does that creative space bit to allow you colleagues to actually do more value added work. And I'll use my team as an example. There's a lot of work that's been done on a transactional basis and pretty much doing the calculator thing. AI will help them to move forward in that space. So rather than them doing the bits that actually a system can do and calculator can do, they would then move to more value added work and more value added spaces. And that's the kind of I guess the introduction of AI will help us move into that space. There has always been the, I guess, the conversations with teams to say, you know, we are very exhausted because of the changes, because of the workload, etc. This is going to give them that work-life balance and the space to actually do more things that actually make more value-added stuff. Quality impact assessment, I have asked the question, I haven't got an answer on that. But I mean, in relation to full consultation, if I was to reflect as to where we are now versus when I joined the corporation, and actually then going back 10 years, the corporation moves at a significant pace. And, you know, as an organisation, we haven't really changed the way we work, the way we do things, but actually we're doing a lot more quickly, and that is what's causing us a lot of pressure. So we do need to embrace technology. We do need to move forward with this so that we can actually change the way we work to be able to keep up with corporations' demands and goals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So completely appreciate the work that's gone into the preparation of the survey to your members. And from my perspective, and I speak on behalf of Cliff as well, we are committed to working with you collaboratively on issues such as these and an array of other issues. I've had initial meetings with Sam Collins, who's Assistant Director for Digital and IT, and Zaki as well, who are both fully supportive of working with the trade unions on these matters. Obviously, diaries are difficult to manage, but we are committed to getting a meeting in shortly. And I think it was important that we go through this initially and then have that follow-up meeting with Zaki and Sam and figure out the best way that we can work together and what we can base our steps forward off. So anything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so just before we go to the next item, Town Clerk, I just wanted to come back on a point that was raised by Layla from Unite around members not attending the conciliation meetings with ACAS. So Tom, do you want to just come in and just explain why that was?
So just so everyone is aware, and in terms of members' attendance, myself and a number of members, including the Chief People Officer, attended Corporate Services Committee, where the committee, which is the Grant Committee, which oversees the Joint Consultative Committee, gave delegated authority to the Town Clerk and officers to proceed with those negotiations and that conciliation activity. And we were instructed by elected members to undertake that conciliation and move forward with that. So that was the reason that elected members didn't attend. And as we mentioned during conciliation, that delegated authority was given to the Town Clerk and officers to proceed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I hope that clarifies the point. That was okay. All right, then, Town Clerk, over to you.
Thank you. That moves us on to item number 5. The item raised by the City Corporation, and it's the City of London Corporation Trade Union Recognition of Agreement and Partnership Agreement. To report to the Chief People Officer, and I believe Tom is going to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. So we've had some initial discussions with our trade union colleagues on this matter. The City of London's Trade Union Recognition Agreement dates back to July 2000. It is no longer fit for purpose for what we need it for. It mentions the incorrect unions, and there are not many words in that document that are up to date or relevant. The paper that has been submitted to the JCC seeks agreement to review of the current recognition agreement. The recognition agreement serves the purpose of recognising which trade unions the corporation engages with. There is an urgent need to undertake that work. From our perspective, and as discussed with trade union colleagues, the most urgent step would be to bring that up to date to where we stand now. That is outlining the correct unions, the correct dates, and getting the principles in place which are current. There is then a further step to update that recognition agreement about where we want to be moving forward, and there is work to be undertaken there around permanent facilities time arrangements, etc. That is a longer term, more strategic discussion that needs to be had, but it is our view that the current recognition agreement can be urgently brought up to date with a view, obviously with agreement from trade unions and work with trade unions to bring that to the next JCC, which I believe is scheduled for February. I think that that urgent step will be a step in the right direction, and then we can proceed to doing that further down the track. In addition, officers are proposing the development of a partnership agreement with our trade union colleagues, which sets out the principles and processes for how we collaborate and engage between the corporation and the recognised trade unions. I think that's a really good follow-up from a lot of what Ben and Cliff have both sort of raised in their points. I think risk assessments are a good tool and presentations are a good tool, but this partnership agreement and the proposal of a partnership agreement gives us the ability to turn this into something tangible with actions and outcomes rather than words, and gives us chance to, and it came off a slide that Cliff had, driving a single shared vision in places where there are multiple stakeholders, tasks and priorities, which is certainly the case between the corporation and the trade unions. So it's about bringing that journey that Cliff ran through to life and committing on a more tangible scale the way that the corporation works with our trade unions and ensuring that we have frameworks in place to assist that. I'd also mention that a recent report by the CIPD puts forward that partnership working with trade unions is the way forward. And that report does mention a policy briefing which was jointly produced by the CIPD and the trade union Prospect, which agreed that employment relations, partnership working between employers and trade unions can create a modern framework for industrial relations. So there's a lot of evidence out there to tell us that this is the right step. It is a lot of work and there is a lot of collaboration involved, and it's not a one-sided step between the corporation or the trade unions, and it is something we'll need to work together on. But I think it will really put us in good stead to give us a framework to do some really important and meaningful activities together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any responses to Tom?
Thanks, Chair. I mean, we're certainly welcoming the proposal of updating the agreement. I think we're particularly excited about the partnership agreement and potentials there for working together. I think it's a realistic, pragmatic approach because, you know, contained within this report, it's sort of suggesting that there could be quite a few fundamental changes to what trade unions can do if this employment rights bill goes ahead. Increased union presence in the workplace, increased powers to go to industrial dispute. For example, one of them is to be able to hold a ballot for industrial action electronically. So again, that's bringing things up to date. At the moment, as you're aware, we have to do, if it comes to industrial disputes, we've got to do a postal ballot, you know, and we've also got to get 50% of our membership out. But with the current government, you know, and I believe it is probably incumbent upon trade unions to hold their feet to the fire to get them to implement what they said they're going to do. But actually, I think for the unions, it's great. I think it's good for the employer too, you know, because the emphasis is on working together, you know. So that's all I've got to say on it at the moment. But thanks very much, Tom, for all your work and everything in regard to this. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
Just just to come on and there. Yeah, I think this was initiated two years ago by the GMB. We've been waiting a long time for this, and I think it's the right time with the new bill coming forward potentially, and the new document CIPD one, which is refreshing. So I think we're ready. Thanks, Tom.
Layla, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, similar. Just to reiterate that Unite has also waited a long time for this, and we welcome this change and the opportunity to work with Tom and other officers going forward with this, and to put on the record our thanks to Tom and the meetings that we've had already on the subject. Seem to be a lot more productive than I think ones that have been in the past. So there seems to be a firm commitment from the corporation side to engage and make this happen on a much more proactive in a much more proactive way. So we welcome the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, over to you, Town Clerk.
Thank you. That brings us on to item number 6, questions on matters relating to the work of the committee, none of which I'm aware of in advance of the meeting. Seeing none in the room, that brings us on to item number 7, which is any other business that the chairman considers urgent. There is. Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
Sorry, Layla, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether this is the right place to bring this up, so I'll leave it to your discretion. It's just I'm aware that there is or there has been a local government association peer review, which I believe may be the first time that there has been one at the corporation. And I tried to find out more information on social media, on our, website. I couldn't find anything. I just wanted to know whether there was a possibility to see the terms of reference of the review and what the key steps are going to be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I did participate. It was a lot of fun. So I'll hand over to Tom to give an update on that.
I did participate as well. So I think there is some information that I've seen on Colnet, but I might be wrong. It might have been sent to me as part of my contribution as part of that peer review. It's not information we'd be keeping particularly secret, I don't think. So I can take that as an action, Layla, to work with the team. I believe it's in our corporate strategy team who are running that, so we can follow up and provide some information, and we can provide that to GMB colleagues as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Over to you, Douglas.
Thank you. That brings us on to item number 7. Any other business that the chair considers urgent. So there is one additional item of business of which I'm aware from the Chief People Officer and Head of Policy and Industrial Relations, which is an update from Unite.
Thank you, Chair. And I did have a brief exchange of messages with Layla yesterday that in the hope that we would have a quick discussion about any updates from Unite. As members and officers are aware, there have been a number of issues in relation to getting filling the facilities time at Unite, which is currently 5 days available, of which only 3 are being utilised. In addition, we do have very important and quite urgent consultation on our Ambition 25 pay and grading structure, as well as some concerns which have been raised around the election of Unite reps, particularly the Central Criminal Court. I just note for the record that Layla does take on a significant amount of extra work at Unite and has for some time, and has been fully engaged when we have had the opportunity to work together. But it would be useful to have an update, Chair, on behalf of Unite to understand a number of those issues and the current position of Unite with the corporation.
Thank you, Tom, and just wanted to take this opportunity to reassure members that we are committed to engaging as much as we can to serve foremost our members to the best of our abilities. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but we recognise that the past few months have been challenging at our end. We have a number of workplace reps who are trained, some of them still in process of being trained. We recruited 2 new workplace reps recently as well, and we are waiting for them to take on training. So we are trying our best to build up our team, and I think these are historic issues that we're dealing with now, where we clearly didn't have a resilient, I would say, as resilient team in terms of the workplace reps. So we've proactively recruited new reps. With regards to Ambition 25, I have attended all of the meetings apart from 2. One I was on annual leave, the other one something at work came up, and I must admit I have to prioritise my work sometimes because I'm not using facilities time, and I use my personal time to do the union role at the moment. So yeah, that's the reason. But if I miss a meeting, as I said to Tom, I watched it backwards, not backwards, how you say, or on replay afterwards to make sure that I keep myself up to date. With regards to the Central Criminal Court workplace rep, this is something that should never have happened. When it was brought to my attention, I was quite shocked. This is a bit of a failure on our part in terms of processes. I think what's happened is when the workplace representative was 2P'd over to the outside contractor, we failed to act, and I think it happened at the same time as there were changes. The gentleman who was in attendance earlier in the meeting, Danny, I've spoken to him already, and he is aware of the situation, and he is having a conversation with that workplace rep, and that person is going to be told very clearly that they are not a City of London workplace rep. So just to reassure you on that as well. With regards to how we are coping, although we're not using the 5 days facilities time, as I said, I work 80% of my time, and the afternoons that I've got off, I've got 2 afternoons a week that I got off, I use for union activities. Well, not all the time, but some of the time. So even though we're not using the 5 days, we are working hard. As of the 1st of January, our secretary is going to be working solely on Ambition 25. So she will be the main person for and the main contact for Ambition 25. I will undertake the training myself as well and ensure that there is a smooth transition between myself and her. And with regards to the day-to-day business as usual activities of the branch, these will be shared amongst our workplace reps to make sure that our secretary can be solely focused on this primary activity of engaging with Ambition 25 consultation and meetings and any engagement activities that pertain to that programme, because we do recognise this is a priority both for our members and for the corporation. So I don't know if this alleviates any of your concerns, members, but if you do have further concerns, I'm more than happy to try and answer any of your questions.
No follow-up questions for me, and I'm happy to continue to pick this up and work together offline later. But if any elected members have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. No. Oh, and Ben.
Sorry, unrelated, Chair. Can we just go back to the item 5 raised by the corporation for decision? What was the decision?
Sorry, the
Yeah, number
decision was to proceed with the review of the recognition agreement and to also it was around the proposal for the partnership agreement, and that was for decision by the JCC.
Yes, indeed.
Was that agreed?
So you want to, should we put the decision to the committee? Yes. It's agreed by us as a committee. Yes.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to come back to Unite's position, I suppose the observation would be, you know, reps don't have facilities time. Obviously, Layla as well, you're giving a lot of your own time up to support the branch, and I suppose just you know, maybe that's something Tom can think about, particularly with Ambition 25. That's very pressing. But we know ourselves. Oh, it's loud. That that we're very busy. So I'm sure Unite branch is busy as well on those terms. But that was just an observation. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Tam, I'll go to you.
Thank you. That brings us on to item number 8, which is exclusion of the public. To agree. Thank you very much. I'll ask my colleague to end the live stream. If you can give me a moment, I'll confirm once we're into non-public session.